So I told you yesterday I was worried. And I told you yesterday the president of the United States threatened to kill 93 million people on social media, and it wasn't funny. I told you that the deadline was 8 p.m. and it felt like the world was holding its breath. Well, we made it. Barely. About 90 minutes before the deadline, Donald Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Pakistan mediated it. Prime Minister Sharif and Field Marshal Munir talked him off the ledge. Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz for 2 weeks with safe passage through their armed forces. Both sides stopped shooting. The world doesn't end tonight. And the White House is already spinning this as a win. Caroline Leavitt was on the mic within the hour calling it a victory, calling it tough negotiations by Trump and Vance, saying he got Iran to open the strait without the help of NATO. His allies on the Hill are lining up to call it the art of the deal. Sean Hannity is probably already writing the victory special. But I want you to listen to me very carefully, because this is the moment the propaganda machine gets to work. And if we don't say this out loud right now, it's going to become accepted history of what happened. This is not a win. This is not an accomplishment. This is a man fixing something he broke. And we are worse off than we were before he broke it. Let me walk you through it. Donald Trump started this war on February 28th, unprovoked, without congressional authorization, joining Israel in an operation he didn't need, against a country that posed no imminent threat to the U.S. His own intelligence community told CNN his justifications for the war didn't match their assessments, and he started it anyway. For 6 weeks, that war has raged. 1,900 people dead in Iran, 20,000 injured, 13 American service members killed that we know of, because we know this administration can't be trusted with numbers because they're known liars. Over 300 American troops wounded. Again, that's what they're telling us. We really don't know because, again, this administration is a bunch of liars. 170 children dead when an American or Israeli strike hit an elementary school earlier in the war. A university bombed. Hospitals damaged. A bridge near Tehran destroyed. Bombs on Karg Island. Gas prices projected to hit $4.30 a gallon this month. The global economy tipping into recession because Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to being invaded. All of that happened because Donald Jackass Trump, started a war. Then he spent the last 3 weeks threatening to make it worse, threatening civilian power plants, threatening bridges, threatening water treatment facilities, which is textbook war crimes, threatening to bomb them back to the Stone Ages. And then yesterday morning, threatening to exterminate a civilization of 93 million people by 8 p.m. And now because Pakistan stepped in and negotiated a 2-week pause, we're supposed to applaud him for not pulling the trigger on the extermination he threatened? That's not winning. That's the fire department showing up to a fire and telling you it was the arsonist's idea to call them. Don't clap for the arsonist. Here's what we got from this deal. A 2-week ceasefire, which means the war isn't over. It means it's paused. Iran is already declaring victory on state television. They're calling it a 10-point peace plan that Trump himself said includes unverified claims about American concessions. 2 weeks of negotiations started in Islamabad on Friday. Vance leading the U.S. delegation. Oh yeah. The same Vance who was in Hungary this morning, campaigning for Viktor Orban while his boss threatened genocide for the White House. And then what? In 2 weeks, we're back to square one. 2 weeks is not peace. 2 weeks is a stay of execution. And this administration has shown over and over that it doesn't know how to negotiate anything except by threat and bluster. So what do you think happens when 2 weeks is up and Iran hasn't fully capitulated to every demand? We're right back to the whole civilization will die tonight, because that's the only move he has. Here's what the world saw today. They saw the president of the United States post a genocidal threat on the social media platform on a Tuesday morning. They saw Amnesty International say it was an incitement to war crimes. They saw the former executive director of Human Rights Watch say it was collective punishment. They saw the Iranian ambassador to the UN call it potentially genocidal. They saw members of the U.S. Congress call for the 25th Amendment and impeachment. They saw Iranians forming human chains around their own power plants to shield them with their bodies. They saw Pope Leo call on Americans to call their representatives and beg for peace. The Pope had to step in and ask American people to restrain their own president. And they saw that it took a Pakistani prime minister to pull American president back from the brink. By the way, this man should win the Nobel Peace Prize. Should win the Nobel Peace Prize. Not a member of his own cabinet, not a congressperson, not the American military, Pakistan. A country a lot of Americans couldn't even find on a map. Pakistan had to be the adult in the room because there was no adult in our own room. That is not strength. That is global humiliation on an unprecedented scale. And let's talk about what we lost, because we lost a lot today. We lost credibility. Every ally we have just watched us threaten a civilization with extermination. That is not forgotten. That is not undone by a 2-week ceasefire. Britain already said this isn't their war. NATO refused to help open the strait. Japan and South Korea refused. Our closest allies watched us become a rogue state in real time. You don't get that back with a press release. We lost moral authority. We are the country that prosecuted Nazis at Nuremberg for war crimes. We are the country that wrote the Geneva Conventions. We are the country that preached human rights to the world for 80 years. Meanwhile, subjugated black people to inhumane conditions, but that's neither here or there. And today our president made an apocalyptic threat against 93 million people on social media. Every future human rights violation committed by any dictator anywhere in the world now has American precedent to point to. Well, your president threatened a whole civilization. Why can't I? We lost lives. 2,000 Iranians, 13 Americans that we know of, 170 children in a school. And the war isn't even over. It's paused. We lost our economic stability. Gas at $4.30. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, and Bahrain shut down 7.5 million barrels of oil per day because of this war. The International Energy Agency said oil production won't return to pre-war levels until late 2026. That's over a year of pain that working Americans are going to eat because of a war the president started. And he has the gall to say, oh, well, they're fixing elections so that I can lose. No, dude. No one has to fix elections so you can lose, because you're a loser and you're going to lose the midterms, period. We lost our democratic norms. He fired his attorney general last week, his Homeland Security secretary last month. His Supreme Court told him no on birthright citizenship. His own intelligence community contradicts his public claims. His cabinet is either fired or complicit. His vice president was in Hungary while he threatened genocide, and his response to all of it is to threaten to kill 93 million people because he's losing everywhere else. We lost because Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. And 2 weeks from now, we'll be right back where we're right back here. Maybe not with Iran, but maybe with Venezuela, maybe with Mexico, maybe with North Korea, but with somebody, because this is who he is. This is what he does. He breaks things and then demands credit for sort of fixing them. He lights the house on fire and then wants a medal for calling 911. So when you see the victory laps today, and you will see them, when you see the MAGA talking heads calling this a masterclass in negotiation, no, it wasn't. When you see a supporter saying, see, he got the strait opened, remember this, he closed the strait by starting a war that he didn't need to start. Over a nuclear threat his own intelligence community didn't back up. He then threatened to exterminate 93 million people to get the strait open. And now he wants credit for reopening the thing he himself closed. That's not diplomacy. That's arson with a press conference. And the scariest part is that it worked. Not the war, not the negotiations, the threat worked. Because Iran moved when he said a whole civilization will die tonight. And now every future president, every future autocrat, every future would-be dictator in this country has a template. They know that threatening mass death on social media is an effective negotiation tactic. That is the precedent that was set today. That is what we taught the world. That is what we taught future American leaders. History is going to judge this moment. Not just the moment of the threat, the moment after the threat. The moment when the American people had a choice to treat this like the obscenity it was, or to shrug and say, well, it worked. And if we shrug, we're telling every future president that threats of genocide are on the table, that war crimes are just a negotiating tactic, that the lives of 93 million human beings are worth fewer clicks than a tweet. But I refuse to shrug, and I hope you refuse to shrug. And I refuse to call this a win. I refuse to give this man credit for not committing the war crime he openly announced. And I'm asking you, no, begging you, pleading with you, don't shrug either. This isn't victory. This is a reprieve, a 2-week reprieve paid for with the blood of everyone who has already died in this stupid, unnecessary war, and the stability of a country that might not survive 2 more weeks of this man's decision-making. We are not safer tonight. We are not stronger tonight. We are not better off. We are just still here, and still here is the lowest possible bar for a superpower to clear. Don't clap for the arsonists. Clap for the people who held the fire back. Pope Leo, who used his first weeks in office to call for peace. Prime Minister Sharif of Pakistan, who picked up the phone. He definitely deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. The Iranian civilians who formed human chains around their power plants with their own bodies. The members of Congress who stood up and said the 25th Amendment when the rest were hiding. And you, if you called your representative today, if you shared the post, if you said the words out loud, those are the people who saved lives tonight, not the man who threatened to take them. The smoke is still rising. The fire is still underneath us, and we are still dangerously close to the edge. Tomorrow we wake up to a 2-week clock. And in 2 weeks, we find out what kind of country we are. Think for yourself. Don't clap for the arsonist. And you can quote me on that. If what you heard just hit you, don't treat it like background noise. Don't scroll past it. Follow the link in the description and subscribe to the Quote to Smoke podcast. Leave a comment too. Disagreement is welcome here. We talk, we listen. That's the point. No filter, just fire.